All right, let's dive in. We're about to pull back the curtain on the fundamental secret behind pretty much all the electricity you use every single day. I mean it. Without this one discovery, our modern world just wouldn't exist. And here's the thing. Our story doesn't kick off with some crazy complicated physics equation. Nope. It starts with a person. A guy whose endless curiosity, and I mean this literally, lit up the entire world. His name was Michael Faraday. So, picture this. It's the early 1800s. Michael Faraday is working in a bookbinding shop. He didn't have any formal schooling, not really, but what he did have was way more powerful, this incredible burning desire to learn. He was literally reading the books he was supposed to be binding, teaching himself everything he could about science, one page at a time. I mean, his journey is just remarkable, right? From this humble workshop all the way to the cutting edge of science. And then, in 1831, he finds this connection, this hidden link that would basically become the engine for our entire modern world. Okay, so what was this world-changing discovery? What did he actually figure out? Well, it's a phenomenon we now call electromagnetic induction. Faraday was, completely obsessed with this question. Back then, electricity basically came from these clunky chemical batteries. But he had this hunch. He suspected there had to be another way, a way to conjure up a current using that invisible force of magnetism. And the answer he found? It's so simple, so fundamental, it honestly feels like a magic trick. It's really this simple, but also kind of profound. You take a magnet, you move it near a coil of wire, and just like that, electricity starts to flow. No chemicals, no rubbing things together, just pure motion inside a magnetic field. That's it. But here's the crucial part, the catch. If that magnet just sits there, perfectly still inside the coil, nothing, absolutely nothing happens. The real magic, the absolute key, is the change. The magnetic field going through that coil has to be changing, or you get no current. Period. Okay, so making a little spark of current is cool and all, but the real question is, how do we get more of it, right? How do we control it? This is where Faraday went from just noticing something amazing to actually defining a fundamental law of physics. Now, to get a handle on this rulebook, we've got to talk about a concept called magnetic flux. Don't let the name scare you. It's really just a fancy way of measuring how much of that magnetic field is actually passing through our loop of wire at any given moment. And check this out. This is Faraday's law in action. If you move the magnet slowly, you get a tiny bit of current, maybe a dim little light. But if you whip that magnet back and forth really fast, boom, you get a whole lot more current, a super bright light. And yeah, that's pretty much the law in a nutshell. It's not just that you're changing the flux, it's about how fast you're changing it. The faster the change, the more voltage you get. More voltage means more electrical energy. Simple as that. All right, so we know how to make the current stronger, but which way does it actually flow? And have you ever wondered why it feels like you're pushing against something when you move the magnet? There's a resistance there. Well, that leads us to another equally profound law of physics. I like to think of this as nature's law of pushback. It's kind of stubborn. The electricity you create immediately generates its own magnetic field that fights back against what you're doing. So if you push a magnet's north pole into the coil instantly creates its own north pole to try and push you right back out. But why? Why does it do that? This isn't just some weird random quirk of the universe. It's actually one of the most essential principles in all of physics. This pushback is tied to a core idea of reality itself. And this is where it all clicks together so beautifully. It's the law of conservation of energy. See, without that pushback from Lenz's law, you could give a magnet one tiny little nudge and get infinite free energy forever. You'd break physics. But nature doesn't work that way. There's no free lunch. The physical work you put in, that effort it takes to push against that opposing field, that's what gets converted into the electrical energy you get out. There's actually a super cool real-world demo of this you can see. If you take a strong magnet and drop it through a copper pipe, which isn't magnetic, by the way, the magnet falls in almost slow motion. It's wild. That's Lenz's law, right there in front of you. The falling magnet creates these swirling currents in the copper, and those currents create a magnetic field that pushes up, acting like a brake. Okay, so we've got this awesome principle. A magnet, a wire, some motion. But how do you scale that up? How do you go from that little tabletop experiment to the gigantic system that powers our entire civilization? Well, instead of just shoving a magnet back and forth, which isn't super efficient, modern generators flip the script. They take a really strong magnet, keep it still, and then they spin a huge coil of wire inside its magnetic field. By spinning the coil, the magnetic flux through it is always changing, which means you get a nice, steady, continuous stream of electricity. And because that coil is spinning around and around, the current it creates naturally flows one way and then the other. It alternates its direction, and that is alternating current, or AC. It's the exact type of electricity that powers our homes, and it's the standard for power grids pretty much everywhere. When you stop and think about it, it's absolutely mind-blowing. A giant windmill with its spinning blades, a massive hydroelectric dam with water rushing through it, even a power plant creating steam, they're all just incredibly fancy ways of doing the exact same thing, spinning a coil of wire inside a magnetic field. It all comes back to that simple discovery. And really, that's the power of science, isn't it? One single idea, sparked by the curiosity of a guy in a bookbinder's shop, completely reshaped the world for all of us. Every single time you flip a light switch, you're tapping into his discovery. It just makes you wonder, what will the next spark of genius reveal?